So my original plan for this morning had been to go to Lake Bled and climb up to Mala Sornica and photograph the sunrise over the mountain peaks behind the lake. But looking at the weather forecast last night, it kind of showed that rain was going to come in over Lake Bled around sunrise, and the clear outside showed almost 100% high cloud over Bled, and the storm radar showed that a storm was kind of moving from the northwest inwards, and so it kind of looked like there was every chance that I wouldn't get anything. So at the last minute last night, just before I went to bed, I decided to change my plan. And I also looked at the forecast for south of Ljubljana, the Ljubljana Marshes actually, and it showed that the cloud would move in later, and around sunrise it would still be pretty clear. Now the sun is rising, or the sun rose as you saw, off to the northeast here. So looking at the forecast towards the northeast of Slovenia, it also showed it to be fairly clear too, with a bit of light cloud but not too much. So to that end I decided to come down here to the hill of St. Anna on the Ljubljana Marshes, and from here, as you can see, you get a magnificent panoramic view all the way around. You get a view off to the Kamni Gaps, view over to Ljubljana there, and of course the sun rising over the hills there. So it was a last minute change of plan. It's actually over the mountains a lot clearer than I thought it would be, and as luck would have it, I looked at the forecast for Bled this morning and it changed, that the thick cloud would move in later. But there you go, you know. As you can see, I still got some great photos. Looking down this way, there's a nice little hill with the Church of St. Lawrence on there, which makes a really nice composition. And as the sun came up over the hills there, and there was some very light mist down in the valley there, down across the marshes, and so I got a nice shot regardless, so it was worth it. And anyway, the image that I wanted from Lake Bled I can get any other time. Now of course, as I was shooting the sunrise and shooting into the light, I needed to put a neutral density graduated filter on the lens. I used a 3-stop hard grad, and just to get that separation between the sky and the hilltops where it was extremely bright, and then brighten up that foreground, so essentially darkening the sky and rebalancing the exposure, because the foreground would be very dark otherwise because the sky is very bright. Now the problem you get, of course, when you're shooting into the light and into the sunrise is lens flare. And what I usually do though, when I know the sun, when I'm planning a shot like this and I know where the sun is coming up, I actually start taking my shots before the sun has come up over the horizon, and I keep that same composition locked in. And then when the sun comes up and I can start getting the sun peeking over, getting the star effects, I keep on shooting, even though I'll reach a point where I'll start getting lens flare in the foreground. But that doesn't matter, because if I keep that composition the same, and I still get a good shot, I get a really good shot of the sky. But if that shot of the sky has lens flare in the foreground, I can actually blend it with one of the shots I took before where there was no lens flare, and it's a very quick and easy way to get rid of the lens flare. Not sure if I'm going to need to use that technique here. I won't know until I get back and look at the shots. But if I do, then I'll show you in this video how I did it. Okay, so it turns out I did need to use this double exposure technique. for this photo because the picture I want to choose, where the sun coming up, has lens flare. So I'm going to show you now how to do it. Now, as I said, you want to take a photo like this just before the sun comes up over the mountain peak or the cloud top, whatever it is you're trying to capture. And in this photo, all of the foreground or whole of the picture is completely free of lens flare. Now, it's important that the pictures are identical, so you have your composition set and you don't move it an inch, because both of these photos are going to have to match up. Okay, and also not just that you mustn't move anything, you must also be taking your photos, or take your photo as close as possible to the moment the sun peaks over, because the reason for that is that as the sun climbs higher and comes up over, then the color temperature of the whole scene changes, so it's much warmer. Of course, if you look at this photo that I took a bit earlier, you can see the difference in color temperature. And if you try to match these two, it's not going to happen. It's not going to match well, because the color temperature of this is different. So when you blend it through, it's gonna look horrible. It's going to be a mismatch. Okay, so really, as I say, if you're not quite sure when the sun is going to peak over, then just keep taking photos. So this one here I've chosen just before the sun peaked over, 0 lens flare. This one, that's the picture I want of the sun, but it has lens flare down here around the church. There's no way I'm going to clone that out. Well, I can clone it out, but why give yourself all this work when you can use this simple technique? And there's a tiny bit of lens flare up here, but that's it. Okay, but this one is completely free of lens flare. So in Adobe Camera Raw, the first thing I'm going to do is edit these two photos and then export them as TIFFs. Now, because I'm going to blend these, I'm going to edit the two simultaneously. So if you select the first one, I hold down Shift, and this selects both of these images. And now anything I do here is going to be applied to both images simultaneously. So both images will have the exact same edits. So quite simply, first thing I'm going to do here is move my blacks back. I'm going to adjust the highlights. There we go. Touch of contrast. Touch of dehaze. And a touch of vibrance. Okay, that's enough really for these two photos. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is save these. So I go up here to convert and save selected image. Click on this. Okay, check on my settings. I'm going to save it as a TIFF, 16-bit TIFF, Adobe RGB, resolution 300 dpi. And this is where I'm going to save it. So I'm going to select where I want to save it. Okay, I'm going to save it here in this TIFFs folder and click Save. Okay, now I'm going to click Done. Now if I go up, Open, here are my two photos edited in Adobe Camera Raw. Okay, so the quickest way here is to go to File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack, browse to my folders, my TIFFs folder here, select both my images and click OK. Make sure neither of these are ticked. Click OK, and I'm going to import both of those into two layers. There we go. So down in our layers palette here, I've got both layers. Now my image without the sun is on top. I want that to be on the bottom. So quite simply I'll just move this layer and put this layer on the top. So now I've got my layer with the sun and the sun flare on top. Okay, I go to layer, layer mask, reveal all. Now I want to select this, the brush tool. Okay, now on a nice big brush, you can go up here to set your brush size. I want 100% opacity. Okay, and a nice big brush. So down here, this is where my big lens flare is. Now you're going to see all I need to do is this. Painted the layer from underneath through and eradicated that lens flare. It's that simple. That simple. Okay. Now for the small one here, it's quite small and subtle. If I go again, select my brush tool, I want a smaller, slightly smaller brush this time. Yeah, that will do. Okay. Now you'll see, look, if I do that, it looks, you can see the difference here. It looks quite obvious. So I'll undo that, and what I do is brush all the way across to get rid of that, to make it nice and even. Be careful not to brush out my sun rays. There you go. That's that. Simple. Simple. Now that's done, I flatten my image, make a few final adjustments. Let's pull back those highlights a bit more here. Really, there you go. Really bring out that sun star. Yeah, there we go. Apply some curves, add a touch more overall contrast to the scene. There we go, like that. And voila, it's that simple to deal with lens flare. Now, I usually, when I come up here, we've got great panoramic views, but there's a lot of trees and everything in the foreground, so the wide angle is not much use up here actually. So I tend to put on the telephoto 100 to 400. Now the 100 gives me wide enough view to get the church and the marshes and everything in, but at the same time I can very easily zoom into something in the distance because we've got lots of mountains, the mountain views and everything are here, so really gives you that flexibility to be able to go right up close to the mountains, pull back and get some more of the scenery in. And the other side is really great too. Let me show you. The old church of St. Anna. Beautiful church in itself too. But the view from here is spectacular. You can see all around. This is looking west. And there in the distance you have the church of St. Joseph and the church of St. Maria. And over there, Mount Krim. Looking east, northeast, got the whole of the Kamnik Alps. And looking west, we get a view across the Pohorgradis Dolomites. And when it's clear enough, you can can see the Julian Alps and Mount Triglav, the highest peak in Slovenia. And you can see on the horizon there that thick cloud that is actually moving in, looking northwest now. So it is actually moving in. It's just come obviously a bit later than the forecast originally predicted. But this rain is going to come in later, for sure. This is another viewpoint up here. Lots of trees down in the foreground, which is why I suggest using the telephoto lens. The river down there is the Ljubljana river, which flows through the center of Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. And unfortunately, even in Slovenia, you get idiots graffitiing this lovely old church. Nice little bench to put your backpack on. Well, there you go. Not quite what I planned this morning, but fantastic nonetheless. I love coming up here anyway. The Church of St. Anna and the view across the Ljubljana Marshes is just spectacular. It's a great place for sunrise or even sunset photography because you get a panoramic view, 360 degrees. You get Ljubljana to the east, you've got the Kamnik Alps in the northeast, and then looking to the west you can see the Julian Alps when it's clear, or the Pohogradets Dolomites. You've got churches on hills all around, you've got Krim up there, you just got views all around you. So it's just a spectacular place to be, let alone to come and photograph. It's quite a popular hiking area too, and you can park in a car park just down here and it's maybe a 15-minute walk along a forest road, or you can park at the lake down below and take a more strenuous hike through the forest down here. So I'll put some links in the descriptions to the videos that show you those hikes actually, so if you just want to come here and hike, then come here and hike. But if you want to come and take photos, this is the place to come and take photos. Well, as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you get to come and check out this location yourself one day. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. There's lots of other videos on there to watch, and there'll be lots more videos to come. Okay, so thanks for watching, and good morning from the Church of St. Anna and the Ljubljana Marshes. Catch you later.